Welcome to An Unconventional Life, a podcast where we share stories about the crazy 1% out there who earned their doctoral degrees and then went on to use them in crazy, cool, unique, and unconventional ways. Here's your host, astrophysicist turned teacher, author, dissertation coach, and more, Dr. Russell Strickland.
Hi, this is Dr. Russell Strickland, your host for An Unconventional Life podcast. Today, I have with me Dr. Charlotte Pullins. Dr. Pullins has just recently graduated, and I'm looking forward to her sharing her experience with you of going through the doctoral program and getting her EDD in organizational leadership. She is a podcast host with the Tuff Talks and also runs her own not-for-profit organization. So lots of great stuff for us to talk about here. This is what An Unconventional Life is all about, is being able to go out and do these fun and interesting things. Today's episode, as always, is brought to you by Dissertation Done. And at Dissertation Done, we serve folks in two primary capacities. The first is if you're working on your dissertation, if you know you're going to be working on it soon, reach out to us for some help, some guidance, support, and direction. It does so much to help you get to graduation so much faster. Our students tend to graduate in about a year, whereas many students take 3, 4, and 5 years to get through the dissertation process. So reach out to us at dissertation.com/done, and we'll see what we can do to help you get your dissertation done. If, however, you're already out there living your unconventional life, you have your expertise and you want to take it to the next level, our Expand Your Authority program helps you go from a blank page to having your book written and published in less time than you would think is possible. We do this in a very strategic way to help you build and expand your authority platform. And if you're interested in doing that, reach out to us at dissertationdone.com/book. That's dissertation.com/book. Now, Dr. Pullins, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on your show.
You are so welcome. Now, as I ask a lot of folks, we were talking just before we went on the air here. One of the things that is always interesting to me is to find out why someone made the crazy decision to go out and pursue a doctoral degree. We know that only 1% of the population holds a doctoral degree, maybe about 2 or 3% try. So it's a crazy thing to go out and do this. What in the world possessed you to go out and start a doctoral degree program?
Oh, I know. Those numbers are really slim. And it really is, it was a journey for me. But for me, what motivated me was seeing my mother in middle school. She received her GED. And she went back after having 6 kids and going through life. And it really was an inspiration to me that she did something unconventional. She put herself through something even when she had a full family. And she was my inspiration. So I decided, okay, once you become fearless, life becomes limitless. So I applied and it was a shock to, I think, my whole family, because I had hinted around that I was going to do it. And then all of a sudden I got my approval letter and I told my husband, oh, I start in August. And he's like, oh, okay, good. You're going to do it. So, but definitely my mother motivated me to do this.
That is awesome. So you were in middle school. You were going through school. You were, I guess, a teenager at the time. Mm-hmm. And that's when your mom decided, I'm going to go back. Yeah. And I'm going to get my GED. I never finished high school, and I'm going to do that. Yeah. I hear that from so many students. They'll tell one of those two stories. Either someone went out and motivated me because they saw how important education was, and even if it was just going back and getting that high school GED, that was what prompted me to go and get my doctoral degree eventually. Right. Or the flip side is, I ain't letting my kids not get through high school or not get through college or whatever the case might be. So, and I've heard so many stories about mama or daddy graduating along with their son or daughter. Right. One is getting a doctoral degree and the other's graduating from high school or something like that.
That's true. I had a friend do the same thing.
And it's had a lot of family support around there, all these siblings and
yes.
So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you take the dive. I like that. What was the thing you said before when when you're fearless, life becomes limitless. That was awesome. Tell me
Yes,
that.
when you're fearless, life becomes limitless.
I like it a lot.
Yeah,
So,
and with this, you have to be fearless. You have to take on that challenge.
right, and I think that's what gets in a lot of folks' way initially, at least, is just this notion of, can I do this? Is this something that's right for me? Is this something that is even possible for me?
Possible.
And luckily, in today's environment, you can say yes. We have traditionally, and this is where our podcast, An Unconventional Life, came from, is that you have students who go through, middle school, high school, college, and then they go right into graduate school to get a doctoral degree. That's kind of the traditional path. We like to talk about this unconventional path as being the folks who did go out there and start their careers and start their families, and you're like a legitimate adult, and then you're going back to school. Right. And when I say going back, it's not like you're leaving any of that stuff behind. You're still, doing all the other things too.
The things you do.
The fact that that's available to us these days is really, really awesome.
And that's kind of what I did.
Awesome. So tell me that you took the plunge, you decided to be fearless, and you got into class. And how did that doctoral program work out for you? What was the experience like?
At the beginning, the class experiences were pretty good. They were steady. It was basically writing papers, and I did a hybrid method. I did online and in class. So I did class, actually here and there, more classes. So it was good in the sense that.
What does that mean? What does the in class look like?
So we were, it was a traditional class. There was a group of maybe 10 of us who went through this journey all 3 years together in a class. And we had Monday classes where different professors every 8 weeks, but with the same core students. So that method was good for me. You could have done it all online, but it's just a different modality of learning.
Sure.
So 3 years of that, and then 1 year of 1.5 year of dissertation writing.
Well, that's not too bad there. Let's go back to the classes for a minute, because you mentioned, okay, I'm going to be fearless. What was the experience of those classes like? Did you find that was really difficult? Did you find it was surprisingly easy? What was your thought process as you were going through those classes?
You know what? It was more so you had to learn to be a critical thinker. Sure. It's a different mindset within the class. It wasn't as easy as the master's classes, because you were learning new things. You were learning how to write in a scholarly writer. So the classes were challenging at times, especially statistics classes. But overall, it wasn't as.
Nobody likes the statistics class.
For some reason.
I have a numeric mathematical kind of background, so I actually like that stuff. To me, it's something you can hold on to. What's going on. But so many of our students are like, I don't want to do that stuff.
I don't want to do it. Yeah.
And luckily, even when you're working on your dissertation, you don't necessarily have to. It's one of the few things that universities will actually let you get help with, like someone can do that for you. So don't let that necessarily keep you away from doing a quantitative study if that's something you might be interested in. But I did hear the whole statistics things a lot from people. Right.
And I actually did a quant study. So I use SPSS. So it's not as bad as you think. It's just something new that you have to learn, but if you stick to it, you'll get it. Yeah. It'll work out.
So the classes were a little bit of a mixed bag. Some were challenging. Some were,
definitely
kind of what you'd expected. But then comes the dissertation. How was that different for you from the classes? Did you experience any kind of shift when you moved from classes to dissertation?
I did. When you start working on a dissertation, it's more like you are preparing a salad in class. So you're getting the little pieces from each class to go into your salad, your dissertation. And it becomes kind of, you're bringing all those things you've learned together and to write this dissertation. So it's a harder process because it's critical thinking and synthesizing is an itinerant process. You're constantly revising and reading and learning and changing. So the process itself is tedious. They don't just hand these things out.
Right. No, they don't.
They don't. So you have to really, I use the term buckle down, and you have to really learn a lot of things that you weren't traditionally taught in undergrad.
Yeah.
But the classes are there to help you, and your committee is there to help you. So the dissertation is going to be, should I say hard? But it's going.
It's okay to be honest, right? It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's rigorous.
I tell our students all the time, like, listen, we make this as easy as possible, but I don't want to lie to you. It's not easy. We're just going to make it as easy as possible. That's the answer to as easy as possible. It's still hard because, like you said, they don't hand these things out. The attrition rate is just a horrible thing. I mean, when you go into a doctoral degree program, like a 50% success rate. I call it the dissertation coin flip because it's really like somebody's tossing a coin, heads or tails, as to whether you graduate or not. And so hard is a reasonable way of describing it.
Hard is a reasonable way of saying it. Yeah. But when you say that, think about my first class, and there were over 25 people in there.
Okay.
And then it down to 10. And then so far out of the 10, so only 3 of us have completed it.
Wow.
Well, yeah.
So that's worse than that 50-50 so far.
That's worse than the 50, yeah.
They're still on the way.
Yes.
Yeah, no, so you mentioned this idea of it being hard. One of the things that I've noticed in working with a lot of different students is that the thing that makes it so difficult for students is there seems to be no structure. Your classes are very structured. They tell you what to read, what to do, when to do it, deadlines, course requirements, assignment requirements, all of that. Did you find that your dissertation had the structure you were used to, or did you find that the structure, that was part of what was making it difficult for you?
The structure, you had to learn the structure of the dissertation because it's all about the different chapters, what essential things need to be in them. Right. And continuity is very important when you write a dissertation, as you know. But what you say at the beginning has to correlate to what you put at the end, and it has to go together.
All that alignment, it has to.
Alignment. It has to be aligned. If it's not aligned, it's not going to get done. And you know that. And
so many students think, well, gosh, that can't be that hard. What's the problem that you can't say here the same thing you're saying there? But what students, because of this lack of structure, of not knowing exactly where you're going when you start this dissertation process, what happens a lot of times is you start off thinking that this is the direction I'm going to go.
Yep.
Change course along the way, which is fine, but you got to go back and then all the stuff you wrote before, you got to reflect that course change.
You have to change.
And that's where the problem is, that you start off thinking this is the way I'm going to go. You end up going another way, and your paper then doesn't make sense all the way through. And because people don't usually write it from page 1 to page 100 and whatever,
right?
Just skip around and figure out, well, I wrote this 3 months ago. I wrote this 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And so that alignment thing can be tricky. It can definitely be tricky.
It can. If you change something in chapter 1, it might have ripple effect in chapter 2.
All the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But. So what were some of the challenges that you faced as you were going through this dissertation process, beyond just learning the structure and learning what was in the dissertation? What other challenges did you face in this process?
You get a committee. So you have a chair, you have the methodologist, you have a content expert, and you have what's called for us an AQR reviewer. And you have to juggle these people, these different people and what they want in your dissertation. One might say they want one thing, one might say they want another, and they actually approve different sections of your dissertation. For me, one of the challenges was my methodologist. We had a disagreement, and it was...
You're the first person to ever tell me that.
It was an altering...
And it seems to always be that methodologist, too.
It's always a methodologist. Yeah. And I had to... you're almost trying to appease everyone within your committee.
Yes.
It can sometimes, it can conflict with the other person and what they think or what they approved. So for me, the challenge was working with my methodologist for me. And eventually I had to change my methodologist.
Yeah, that's tough because that can take some time, right?
That can take some time. And that's not to say if the next person will like what you wrote either. Right. So in the changing of the methodologist, it took me all the way back to chapter 1. When I was at chapter 3, they had to go back and approve.
Right.
So that was a definite challenge because then you had to change what the next person wanted you to change.
Right.
And, as that itinerant process can be really tedious of rewriting. Yeah. So that was one of the things that was hard.
Yeah. So one of the things, so when you mention you have to appease these different people, one of the things I tell my students all the time is, listen, you're going to be listed as the author of the dissertation, but very quickly you need to come to grips with the fact that this isn't your dissertation, actually. Mm-hmm. It's your committee's dissertation. Mm-hmm. They hold all the keys. They, think about it as if you're creating a suit of clothes, a dress, or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be tailored for those committee members. That suit might be okay the first time you put it together, it might be just fine. But when you put it on your committee, you'll find that parts of it don't hang quite right and it needs to be nipped here and tucked there. And
yes,
got to get it to fit them. And once it does, then they'll approve it. And that can be a tough pill for some students to swallow because I think that this is all theirs and it's up to them to just do it right. But there is no right or wrong with this. You go out there to your university's library and you pull a dissertation that was just published this year. Take their name off of it, put your name on it, give it to your committee, and I guarantee you they'll give you a list as long as your arm of things that they want you to fix.
Of the changes.
And they'll use heavy-handed language too, like fix.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? That dissertation got somebody graduated, but it was perfect for, or it was good enough for that person's committee.
Right.
Your committee is going to want to see things a little bit different. And that's the tough part, is that students think going through school for so many years, it's either right or it's wrong. And with your dissertation, it's just got to fit your committee.
Exactly.
So you got to kind of abandon those sort of perfectionist tendencies and want right and just give them what they're asking for.
Give them what they're asking. And a lot of times the professors say, do you want to graduate?
Yeah.
So,
yes, please.
yes, please. I am done. Yeah, I would like to be done.
And you mentioned before that sometimes committee members will ask you for different things. And a trick that I found is that if you give the first committee member what they're asking for, and then later on somebody else asks for something different, you can usually go back to that first committee member, whatever their title or role in the committee is, and say, well, so-and-so is just really asking me to do this. Mm-hmm. Is it okay if we make that shift? And psychologically, generally, they're going to think, well, this person did what I asked them to do. Right. So I'm okay with it now. Whether what I asked for is in the final edit or not, I don't care so much because I was, kind of honored and respected by the person doing what I asked her to do.
Exactly.
When you get to the next committee member, you just shift it back. And I find that works a whole lot if it's something your chair was asking for and one of the other committee members disagree with the chair. Oh. Usually the chair will just acquiesce after you've done what they wanted to in the first place.
Were you sitting by me the whole time I was writing this dissertation? You just said...
You didn't know that?
That happened. That was everything that happened within my dissertation. Really, exactly verbatim. You have to appease and you have to go through, but like you said, maybe they'll just say you did it and then let you go.
Yeah, and it's really tough because students who go to doctoral degree programs, they generally got there because they were good at school, right? I mean, it sounds obvious, but
Yeah, it does.
that whole notion of school with classes is all about right and wrong.
It is.
And you just have to give that up when you get to the dissertation phase, because yes, there is such a thing as being wrong,
Right.
but there's not such a thing as really being right when it comes to the dissertation.
Exactly.
If it's not wrong, that doesn't mean it's going to get accepted. You've just got to make sure that your committee's happy with it, and whatever it takes to get that to happen. My advice is just do that as quickly as you can. If you don't want to graduate as soon as possible, if you would rather stick around and stay in school for a long time, you can fight with your committee members. I mean, that
Fight with your committee,
might be
right?
fun, but
It's not going to be advantageous at the end.
it's not going to help you graduate any sooner.
No. Not at all. One word I would suggest dissertation learners learn is the word pivot.
Yeah.
You need to pivot through this dissertation and pivot through what people's responses are and make the changes. It's easier to make the changes than to say, no, I'm going to stick to this, and this is what I said I was going to do at the beginning of this process. It doesn't work the same. You know, it's different. You have to pivot. So I put that word up on my little board in front of me the whole time,
Yes.
so I can remember, pivot through this, and it's okay to make changes.
And I like that word. I use it a lot with my own students because it's about taking where you are right now and making small changes that
Exactly.
the committee members think are significant.
Exactly.
But oftentimes a pivot is something you can do in 30 minutes or an hour, and then get it back to your committee, and they're like, okay, we're fine. Or you can keep messing with it for weeks and weeks and weeks and never get there. So it's kind of that notion of small hinges swinging big doors. You can make small changes in your dissertation that just acknowledge and defer to what your committee members are asking you for, and they will appreciate that and allow you to keep moving forward. So I use that word pivot a lot myself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But certainly a word that you have to words that you have to get rid of are things like perfectionism and ownership, passion. I hear folks talk about that a lot at universities. Say, find something you're passionate about. And the answer is no. Find something you can be professionally detached from, so that you can look at it objectively. When someone says to change something, you can just say, okay, change it.
Okay.
Fine.
And I think that's one of the main things you have to learn going in. You have to be willing to change. Yeah. If they tell you that that's not going to work, we're not going to approve it, change it. It doesn't hurt anything, but if you don't.
And students will sometimes complain that, I got all this feedback from my committee or something like that. I'm saying, that's good, because what they're doing is, it's like, if you remember, you were talking about the statistics stuff. If you remember math in grade school, they used to have answers in the back of the book, right?
Yeah, they did.
The committee's giving you the answers.
They're giving you the answers.
This is what I want to see, so I will approve it.
Just do what they ask you to do. Yeah.
And sometimes the committee is not clear about what they want, and then getting some help from someone that's been there before can help with that. But
it does.
Yeah, if you just do what they ask you to do, and then sometimes you have committee members that will vacillate. They'll go back and forth on things.
Yes, they will.
That's when it gets tricky, because you have to then start managing your committee, not just their expectations, but if they're giving you a moving target, you're not going to hit that. So then you have to start figuring out, well, when do I start challenging my committee and saying, you asked me to do this, now you're asking me to do something else.
Yes.
We just need to have a target.
I found out in that process that it's okay to ask questions. I'm not sure why you said this. Can you explain this more? Tell me more what you would like, especially those vague questions that they might have, or, things they want you to change. And have committee meetings to say, I need a meeting because I'm not sure. Yeah, I found that.
A lot of students can't get those meetings. That can be difficult, but you can certainly ask. And if you are asking someone, I want to make sure that I'm, doing what you want me to do.
Right.
The committee members that you want to keep, the committee members you don't want to fire, those are the type of people who are going to say, this person's showing me respect. They're showing an interest in what I'm asking them to do. They're trying to do what I'm asking them to do.
Exactly.
They will try to, accommodate you when they see that. When they think you're being stubborn and pigheaded and just doing it your way, that's when they're less likely to try to work with you.
Right. They're not going to work with you. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Because you got to understand, you got to get these folks on your side. I mean, what they're facing, their job is to make sure that when somebody from the university looks at your dissertation later on, they don't come back to this committee member and say, "What the heck were you doing passing that?"
Right.
That doesn't meet our standards. They just have to get up to the point. Most committee members, they just want to be able to tell you yes. They're not looking for a reason to say no. They want to make sure that there's no reason they have to say no. And if there's no reason they have to say no, then they'll say yes. So,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, so these are like you said, it's kind of like reading your mind sometimes. I see these things enough. What other things were happening for you during this process? Because it's a huge, big process. I mean, there's lots of things going on.
Oh, you have life. Yeah. Life is going on. Like I said, this is a 4-year process. And within that 4 years, I lost my sister. I lost my father, and I was diagnosed with lupus. So
those are challenges.
Yeah, those were
all of that.
Those were heavy challenges. At the beginning of my doctoral process, I was diagnosed with lupus. So if you know anything about lupus, it makes you very tired. You have some muscle difficulties at times. So I was struggling because I was working full time with 2 children, teaching elementary.
All of that's a lot.
Yeah. So with that, I was always tired, writing papers to the middle of the night, and it was difficult. It was really difficult. And this process, as you know, is draining. It can be, and it's arduous. So I had to actually stop working during this process, but that didn't make the process less hard. Right. It helped me because of my diagnosis.
Right. And then that illness, like you said, your resources are diminished. There's only so many ways you can spread yourself.
Right. Because you spread yourself really.
Sometimes you have to make those decisions.
Mm-hmm. It's a hard decision, but you just have to do it. And then closer to the after classes finished, we had 2.5 years of classes, and then after our classes, I started the dissertation writing process. I went home for my sister's funeral on Saturday, and on Monday, while walking in the park with my father, he had a massive heart attack and died there in front of me. Yeah. So that was very tragic.
So that's 2 losses, so close together. How did you deal with that? What did you do immediately after that happened? With everything you had going on with school, with kids and everything, what did you do right after that?
I had to take some time off.
Okay.
Contact my committee, just to let them know what was happening, and they were very willing and flexible with me, and gave me the time that I needed to grieve.
How much time did you take?
I took 2 weeks.
Oh.
2 weeks.
And did you establish that with your committee from the beginning, or did you just say you were going to take some time?
I told my committee I was going to take some time. I didn't establish how long I was going to take, but they told me to take as much, time as I needed. And if I needed, I could drop the class and then come back. But I knew within this process that my father would have wanted me to continue.
That a lot, because I deal with something I wasn't expecting when I started Dissertation Done, is the number of people who had close losses in their family during their doctoral degree program or during their dissertation in particular. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that tends to be a source of reassurance for folks, is they know that this person that they lost would be proud to see them finish, and that it's honoring their memory to continue and to finish. So I'm glad that was something that helped you to get through this.
Yes.
One of the things I've also noticed, and I'm glad that you did get through this, because it can be very difficult for people who take a leave of absence of any length of time to come back, because it is so difficult, right? You're kind of jumping back into the fray again.
Yes.
And so what I always tell students is, if you're going to take a leave of absence, make sure you make the arrangement to come back at the same time as you're making the arrangement to leave. So if it's a month, if it's 6 months, whatever it is for the situation you're facing,
Right.
have that on the calendar already and set up with the university already that here's when I'm going to be back. Because at least then you've got to take positive action to continue to quit. Basically, you've already decided this is when I come back. This is the end of my leave. So you have to take positive action to extend that or something along those lines. And for most folks, if they know they've got a deadline and here's when I'm back in school, it makes it a lot easier. Like I said, I'm really glad that you were able to take the time you needed and come back without having that deadline at the beginning.
Right. That's really good advice, because you don't know what the process is going to be. So I like how you.
Well, life gets a whole lot easier when you're not working on your dissertation. So, so jumping back into the fray, like I said, it can be difficult psychologically. I know, since we're right now, it's fall of 2020. We're still dealing with this pandemic thing. I have gotten to the point where I will go out into the garage and work out several times a week. And I look at some of those weights and I'm just like, okay, you just have to go over there and you just have to lift it up. And I'm like literally talking to myself about it, like literally talking to myself like a crazy person. Just go over there, walk over there. Once you walk over there, you have to lift it. Because I didn't like doing it the first time I did it, and now I got to do it again.
Right.
But that's what it takes. And when you have that schedule of, okay, here's exactly the time I'm doing this and going back, it makes it at least a little bit easier.
It does. It makes
okay. So you dealt with this passing. I'm assuming your family was there to help with the emotional side of that. But in terms of getting back into the fray and getting your dissertation done, that's something that you had to handle for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Jumping back in.
Yeah, the thing about life, I had to. I knew I had the goal to finish. I knew, like you said, my father would want me to finish. So I did get back. I slowly got back into it. Start working, start reading again, and just try to remember that I wanted to get this done. I had invested the time,
right?
To already years.
Not a small amount of money.
A whole lot of money. So I know it was my goal to get it done. Going back to my mother, I saw her get it done.
On the other side, you mentioned your mom like instilling that value of education at an early age, but specifically when it comes to a doctoral degree program, I mean, you can say, hey, I've earned a good education before you go in and get a doctoral degree. What did you see that doctoral degree doing for you? What was the kind of carrot on the other end of that degree program for you?
Yeah, the sort. Well, I know I have a passion for change and innovation and teachers and learning. It's just always been I've been drawn to solve problems and figure out what's the better method. So with this degree, I really would love to do some curriculum development, work with teachers, some consulting. Those things really are part of the reason why I got this degree in organizational leadership.
A lot of that sounds like you want to have some more freedom and flexibility to do some of those things. Yes.
So this degree really will allow me to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you say it will allow, that's because you haven't, it's been kind of recent that you finished this up, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. I just had my graduation ceremony on Saturday.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So it was a virtual ceremony, which, you know, in this day and age, we're dealing with the pandemic, so it's going to be virtual. But I kind of did something innovative. I had a backyard graduation ceremony. It was a social distance backyard ceremony where everyone wore masks, of course. The family that flew in had COVID tests before. But it was a celebration of 4 years hard work and accomplishment and overcoming. And it was great. It was great.
You've got to honor that in some way. You've got to celebrate. That's something I have a little bit of trouble with, that my business coach is constantly getting on me about. It's like, you got to plan the goal and you got to plan the celebration. And for me, kind of my celebration is, okay, I get to set another goal. So I got to get better at that. But you're right. Yeah, I always recommend to all of our students, like, definitely whatever you can do to experience commencement. It's worth it. It's cheesy. It's corny. But you earned it.
But I earned it. Yeah. I had videos. I had the whole podium. I had balloons. I did it all.
Awesome. Yeah. That is great. But even though obviously commencement has just happened, but you finished, you earned the degree a while ago. That's typical for most folks with their doctoral degrees.
Yes.
And you've been doing some really cool things since. So tell us a little bit about that.
I've been doing one thing is a podcast with my daughter. I have a teenage. I have a teenage daughter who's soon to be going to college. So I decided to do a podcast called the Tuff Talks with her. It's a mother and daughter podcast where we talk about the tough things that mother and daughters need to talk about. So we talk about things like conflict resolution. We talk about, we're talking about grief this week, and dating. So it's really something different that I'm proud about. I'm glad I get to talk to her and really get, the core ideas and values out there to young women.
Yes. And start to see that message getting out there to more and more people.
Yes.
Start getting those stories about how you change people's lives, and that really, that really makes it hit home. So that's awesome. It does. And then I understand you also are running your own not-for-profit. Is that right?
Well, I am. I'm a founding member with some, other members of my church's non-for-profit. It's called Antioch Christian Academy. Right. We are set up as a nonprofit to help community that our church is based in with programs and summer things, and also we've done a summer food program also with that. We've been doing it for a while now. It's a great nonprofit.
It's great to be able to, again, like you said, have this flexibility now, because even though this is a fairly recent thing for you, having earned your doctoral degree, you're already starting to see some of those opportunities that knock and some of those doors that open, and this will continue. So exciting times to come.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm looking forward.
But speaking of that and exciting times to come, what do you think is next for Dr. Charlotte?
I think Dr. Charlotte Pullins is going to continue to work in education, is in some sphere of leadership, of course, and make some change. I'm going to make some change. So I'm looking forward to the opportunities that are coming. I know they'll come. That's what I'm hopeful for.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Pullins, how can folks reach out to you if they want to get your advice on some of these changes, if they want to maybe get some coaching on how to make changes themselves in their own communities? If they wanted to just continue this conversation we've started today, how can folks reach out to you?
You can reach me at tuftalks.com. Is the TUFF talks.com. My email address is on there, tuftalks.com. So reach me there and I'll get right back to you.
That sounds great. And check it out. How often do you guys come out with new episodes for the podcast?
Come out every Tuesday. We come out with a new episode. So we'll be coming out with one tomorrow on grief and how to handle it.
All right. So definitely go out and check that out. By the time, if you guys are releasing that tomorrow, then by the time people are listening to this, it'll be out. So go check that out.
Yes, please do.
I want to thank you for joining me today, Dr. Pullins. And I want to remind everyone that this episode has been brought to you by Dissertation Done. If you're working on your dissertation, you maybe need some support and guidance, accountability. You need someone to help you edit. You need someone to help you figure out the statistics stuff. Go to dissertationdone.com/done, and we'll set you up on our Fast Track Your Dissertation coaching program to get you to graduation a year or two faster than you would have thought possible. And if you're already out there living your unconventional life and you want to expand your authority to the next level, consider writing your own book. We help students who have earned their doctoral degrees and other experts to expand their authority through our Expand Your Authority program, helping you get from a blank page to a published book, again, in much less time than you would have thought possible. So you can check us out there at dissertationdone.com/book. Dr. Pullins, I want to thank you once again so much for being here with us today. I enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you for
and what was that little saying you had again about being fearless?
When you're fearless. Oh.
Put you on the spot. Go ahead.
I know you put me on the spot now. Life becomes limitless when you're fearless.
I love it. I love it. So go out there, live your unconventional life, do it fearlessly so that you can live it limitlessly. We'll talk to you next time.
This has been An Unconventional Life. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe now to keep getting inspirational stories of unconventional lives as soon as they're released. Until then, go out and live your best unconventional life.